welcome back, Mzansi. You're still right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show on S3, and it's always so good to be with you, especially when we get to have conversations that are important. Now, I feel like when we talk about homeowners, in terms of what exactly is important to them, this is ever-changing. And one thing Absa does is that they keep up with that. It is also one thing to also note that it's not just about owning a home, it's about a lifestyle. It's about what exactly is happening in your home and what it means to you as well. And with Absa keeping up with our homeowners, they get to understand how this shifts all the time in terms of the property landscape. And this morning, we're getting to understand as a Feel Good Breakfast Show family. So we brought along the big guns. She's gorgeous, but she is also a boss and someone who is here to help us out in terms of really getting to know the Absa Homeowners Sentiment Index and what it is. So she is the managing executive of Absa Home Loans. Everyone, please can we welcome Nondumi Songapai. Nondumi, so how are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm amazing, thank you. You look stunning.
Oh, thank you. You've been too kind.
You look ready to tell us about home owning and everything in South Africa.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that, you know, like I said, you guys keep up with people's stories. You keep up with what it is that really is important to them. So let's start at the beginning. You know, if you could give us a quick overview of what exactly is Absa's Homeowners Sentiment Index, how would you explain it to someone?
Well, very simply, the Sentiment Index gives the public a view of what the sentiment is from the public around property ownership. But also we look at different aspects. It's buying, it's renovating, it's selling, it's investing, etc. So
Yes.
it gets us to know what is the sentiment? How do people feel about the market?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, you know, it really is an important thing to know, and like you even said,
Yeah.
but I think that sometimes we don't even keep abreast with it, even as
Yeah.
people who want to be homeowners.
Yeah.
So this is why then I need to ask you, in terms of Q1, what were the findings that you guys got to see for 2025?
Well, very interesting. The one thing we saw is that first-time buyers as a segment in the market still dominate, right?
Hectic.
And exciting for us is to see first-time buyers getting younger and younger. Looking at our data, even investors, which is a good thing.
I love that.
And then we saw something interesting. I think you alluded to it earlier around consumers being more conscious about lifestyle and sustainability.
Yeah.
Which is a great thing. But also what we saw, the Western Cape, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
The Western Cape is still seeing more people coming in than leaving the province.
Hectic.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful, because a lot of us like to think that everybody's just leaving. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
To a certain
yeah,
extent.
yeah.
But also another thing that I also liked is the fact that, you know, like you said, that the homeowners are getting younger and younger,
Yeah.
and even looking to see how exactly we can make our homes more sustainable. Gen Z is all about that.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Absolutely. And we see it through the data. It's
Yes.
actually very, I mean, the insights tell us most people are thinking about how do they find water solutions that are better. Of course, we can't forget load shedding, looking at energy savings as well.
Yeah.
Which means people are becoming more environmentally conscious.
I love that. And that's important. We want the earth to survive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But of course, I think even you touching on that a little bit in terms of a lot of people going and wanting to live off grid.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
exactly is driving that trend? Would it be the water cuts and all of the load shedding and
You've
everything?
hit the nail on the head. It is that because we know in some areas that people have experienced service disruptions.
Yes.
So, of course, people want reliability and therefore they would want to go off grid.
Yes.
Whether it's energy or whether it's water. But also what's interesting is that people are also finding it better to grow their own fruits and veggies.
Yes. So is that one of the ways that they're actually making their
Yeah.
homes more sustainable?
Yeah, yeah.
That's incredible. And I've been telling people, I was even telling a friend yesterday, I was like, I want to farm. I want to become a farmer brown of sorts. So just to even think that I can do that in my home,
Yeah.
I think that that's such an interesting thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
For me, I'm also just, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, cool. One day I want to own my own home. So can I ask you, just in terms of first-time buyers and them remaining so active, you know, what's the reason behind the momentum? Because I also hear a lot of people saying that, you know, right now it is a buyer's market.
Yeah.
And especially after us going through that really high interest rate. What's driving this trend right now?
And I love the fact that you spoke about rates. We've had rate cuts. In fact, we had the most recent one that took place now recently.
Yes.
Of course, with rate cuts, you would expect demand to increase in the market. And we certainly see it with first-time buyers that are saying, perhaps it's time to enter the market, right? And you're right, it's a buyer's market because there's more opportunities out there in the market. But I think the second thing is what rates do to affordability. Because the minute rates come down, it means my affordability becomes unlocked.
Yeah.
I can get a bigger house potentially, which is a good thing.
Yes. You see, this is why I like where we are going, because things were very bad in COVID. It was no one's market. And now that we're here, I think that we find ourselves in a much better place, which is really, really exciting. And even, like I said, with you touching on how more and more young people are buying, that even for someone like myself who doesn't own a home yet, I think it gives me so much, hope, let me say, and makes me excited about even getting into the property
There's
sector.
hope. There's hope.
I love that. But just to round things off a little bit, I want to ask you just with the standout provinces, what exactly did you guys find when it comes to them? What are their sentiments when it comes to property?
You know what was interesting? We actually saw that Limpopo and Northern Cape and the Free State had the highest sentiment.
Hectic.
But where the sentiment increases, it's usually because people are finding economic opportunities. And of course, where there's economic opportunities, you'd want property, right? And of course, if there's limited property available, you're likely to see demand go up. So that's a common thread across some of those provinces that we saw in Q1.
That's incredible. And I also think, when we talk about the way that South Africans also see the economy, some of us are very, very, I want to say frugal to a certain extent, but at the same time, we're sort of like, what's going to happen in the future, right? But then you did mention earlier on that more people are actually investing and have a good sentiment around property investment. How is that happening? How is that paradox alive?
So obviously, when you look at the rate environment, and let's look at it in general, even when you go past a couple of years, when you look at the rate environment, of course, typically demand would go up. In fact, we do think that rates could potentially come down again in July.
Again? Sorry,
which means that further demand is spurred in the market from a property perspective and across those different segments that we see.
Incredible. I'm sorry, I'm so excited because one day, like I said, I want to own a home. So if the rates are coming down again, I think it opens up for me. Like you said, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Nondumiso. I feel like I said, you don't just look gorgeous, you're the boss as well. And I feel like you've really left us with something here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, man. I always tell you, Absa has got our backs when it comes to anything financial, but they always make it so easy for us to understand. But more than anything else, friend, they always let you know just how much your story matters. And that is what it is about. As you heard, things are looking good in the property sector. And apparently you have a good sentiment, South Africa, which we love. But I can't wait for the next time we have this conversation, because then we'll be able to even look at Q2 and more with our favorite bank, Absa. It's always so incredible to be able to have these conversations around your finances and how, in fact, Absa has got your back.